Hello there. I'm so happy you're here. Welcome to my podcast, Sacred Soul Sisters. My name is Justina. I am an Usui Holy Fire and Angel Reiki Master with over 20 years of practice, and I'm your host. I can't wait to let others feel the love of community and remind us of the importance of coming together instead of coming apart. Now let's take a deep breath together in through our nose and a long exhale out of our mouth. This is my intentions in a poem to set the tone for our sacred soul sister community. Here you go. Welcome, dear soul, to this sacred space where all are embraced with love and grace. From every land, from near and far, no matter who you are, you're a star. Feel the warmth, the light, the peace. Let your spirit find release. Here we gather, hearts aligned, to uplift, to heal, to realign. Breathe in deeply, feel your glow. Let your light expand and flow. As I pour into you with love so true, your cup overflows, your soul renews. Together we rise, in love we stand, lifting vibrations hand in hand. A mission of light, a journey divine. Thank you for sharing your soul with mine. Welcome to the Sacred Soul Sisters space, a home of love and sacred embrace. I'm so glad you're here. Hello. Welcome to the Sacred Soul Sisters podcast. I am your host, Justina, and I am here. It is my honor to hold this sacred space with you as we journey into deeper connection with ourselves, spirit, and the wisdom of others walking this path. Today, I'm so excited to introduce you to my guest, Kara Goodwin. Kara's mission is to help people reconnect with their spiritual nature so they can live with more clarity, peace, purpose, and fulfillment. She is also the host of the Soul Elevation podcast, which is ranked in the top 2% of podcasts globally. And she's the author of Your Authentic Awakening, a guide to everyday spiritual living. Through her work as an energy healer, Reiki master, and guide in multidimensional awareness, Kara empowers others to clear energetic blocks, align with their higher self, and live from a place of authenticity and divine connection. Kara, it is such a blessing to have you here on the Sacred Soul Sisters podcast. Welcome.
Thank you, Justina. And let me just honor you and your birthday because we're recording this on your solar
Thank
return.
you.
And I'm so honored to join you, not only just generally on your podcast, but on this day in particular. I feel so honored to be able to be with the special girl on her special day.
Thank you so much. You are so kind. It's my honor for sure. Kara, can you tell us a little bit about who is Kara Goodwin? What inspired you to walk this spiritual path? How'd you get roped into this beautiful experience?
Yeah. What a funny way to put it, especially with how we were talking before we started recording about just it's a very intense time and we're all really feeling that it's just intense. And so this spiritual journey, I feel like it feels on the surface like it's going to be flowers and unicorns and we're going to step into this, paradise.
Yes.
And that's, a beautiful goal, and maybe humanity will get there at some point. I don't know if it will happen in my lifetime. We've got so much that is shifting and changing, and there is a lot of discomfort that comes with that. And we have such a diversity on this planet and across humanity where people are at all different kinds of stages. And it makes things tricky because we're evolving and developing and changing. We're
Right.
dynamic, right? So we're through our evolution, things that we understood at one point, our understandings change and we see new truths. We may understand that we were in illusion or delusion, which we were born into, that we're coming out of, but but not everybody's doing that at the same time. And so we've got these reflections all through our life, whether it's public figures, whether it's acquaintances, whether it's podcasts we're tuning into, whether it's things we're scrolling through if we're,
Right.
active on social media, or whether it's right there in our households where, we have values that are different from people that we live with, and it causes some strife and some tension. So there is a lot of disharmony right now. And
Amen.
I think it is like a birth canal, where there's a lot of pressure, there's a
Yeah.
lot of darkness, there's a lot of discomfort and pain. And it's, ushering all of us through this process. And hopefully at some point, humanity will all rise to a higher level where we will have a different experience of reality. But, we are, for better or worse, these pioneers who are laying the groundwork and clearing the path. And, we're standing on the shoulders of people who awoke before us and cleared a lot of density for us to be able to even be where we are. So it's a long introduction to, how did I find myself in this, for better or worse situation. Um, my awakening came through tragedy, which I feel like there are a lot of paths to awakening that are tragic,
Mm-hmm.
or, there could be like a medical issue that people are going through, and then they start to go down that path and realize they're not getting anywhere with the mainstream solutions. And then they uncover bits where it's like, wait a minute, doesn't add up. All of this, they're all in cahoots. And so that might be the awakening process. There are people who it comes through conspiracies, through politics, through, there are all different kinds of paths where people are in one understanding of what they've been given, what they've been born into, and then they start to see things in a different way. So, like I said, for me, it was through tragedy. I had 1 year, actually, it was a course of 7 months, where it began with the death of my sister-in-law. She took her life, and she was one of my best friends also. 3 weeks after that, our dog died. A few weeks after that, my stepdad was having surgery on his brain stem, which we weren't, he was rapidly deteriorating, and we didn't know, what would come of that. Luckily, he's doing well. My mother-in-law was hit by a motorbike as she crossed the street. And then my stepmom went to the top of the heart transplant list. She was in the ICU, really holding on there, and got a heart transplant, doing fabulously now.
Wow.
But that was a lot all at once. And my husband and kids and I were living abroad at the time, so we couldn't even be easily with our
Oh,
families while all of this was happening. Um, and it it sent me into just a lot of uncertainty and anxiety, and really just feeling this. I mean, insecurity is the big part of it, where, it was like every time I was receiving news, it was terrible news.
right.
Everything that I shared with you was within my husband and my immediate family, but there were more things happening. We had a guy who was a groomsman in our wedding many years ago, who was diagnosed with a brain tumor that year, and he passed away the following year. So it's kind of like everything was collapsing.
Hello, beautiful souls. Will you do me a huge favor? If you go to angelreikijourney.com, if you can scroll down and go to subscribe to newsletter and put your email in there. That way, anytime I have an event, whether it's going to be live, in person, or on Zoom, you have that information at your fingertips, and you'll receive that in the newsletter. I don't spam you. I send out a newsletter letter once a month. I'll send out something else if something really cool and amazing is happening. Otherwise, Also, make sure to check your spam folder and convert that over to your inbox if for some reason it is going to spam. But so, also some really cool things happening. I am working on, getting the courage to be on TikTok. Yes, I can't believe it. Also, a YouTube channel Spirit made me sign up for about, well, it was 2012, however long ago that was, which feels like 100 years ago. Anyway, they are working on me to get the podcast uploaded over there too, and some other videos and workshops that we're working on behind the scenes. So excited. Return to the episode and have a great day.
And so I had been drawn to meditation in particular for a long time, but I had tried it and I never got anywhere with it. I was just trying to,
Absolutely get it. Yeah.
yes, I was trying to sit there and not think, and that really wasn't doing anything for me. And so when this collapse happened, I kind of just I sought out meditation, and I sought out doing it properly, learning from a teacher who was like, okay, I know there are people all over the world who do this and they get a lot of benefit from it. So I'm going to figure out, like, how do you actually do it? And so I got a teacher, and I actually learned, that there were steps that you could take that could help you to lock into that meditative state more easily, that actually is not an accurate way to say it because it's such a flowing state. It's not really like you get locked in and then you're good, although I have experienced you get to a certain level and then you can, like, it's easier.
Mm-hmm.
But I went to meditation really just for coping. It was trying to just feel more secure and be able to calm myself and to feel some normalcy again. And I really wasn't looking at it from a spiritual perspective, even though I learned from monks. So I was taught from a spiritual lineage, but it was an unfamiliar lineage. And I was very reticent to, like, pray in the way that they told me to pray because the names were unfamiliar. And I was like, I'm not really sure, exactly what's going on. I want the practical stuff. But ultimately what ended up happening was, as I was engaging in meditation, even short meditations, really, I mean, these were relatively short. I was eventually kind of starting to perceive light coming in, perceive light like descending down from my crown, or experiencing one inner vision that I had was kind of a spiraling galaxy, was how it appeared to me from a distance. Like, that was kind of confusing to me. Like, why am I seeing a spiraling galaxy? So I started to have these non-physical, but seemingly intelligent interactions with things that weren't even like beings, but it just felt like something mysterious was happening. And that started to crack open my connection and my willingness to explore things from more of a mystical lens. And then over time, I started to become interested in healing and energy. I was always interested in energy, but again, I was not really from, like, a spiritual perspective, but just like the practical, everything is energy and science can prove this and all of this. Um, and eventually it did come where I felt very strongly guided. I felt that I had this potential to deepen a connection with a higher part of my consciousness that was real, and had more of a 360 view of what was going on in my life and what my purpose was and what my potential was to help others and be of service. And so I started strengthening that connection with myself. And I found that through guiding meditations and doing hands-on healing work, I could help other people to ignite that within themselves and deepen that connection within them, their own connection with their with source, with their higher self. And that is really where the magic happens for me. That's where I really feel lit up, is when other people start to ignite
Mm.
and feel that within themselves.
That's so beautiful when that happens. I totally agree. Um I really resonate with so much that you said. I have people that come to me sometimes and they'll say, you know, you've been doing Reiki for 20 plus years and oh, you must be the enlightened one and everything must be like just super beautiful and magnificent all the time. And I'm like, wow. Uh,
If
I wish that
only.
was the case. um, but typically it doesn't work quite like that. There's a lot of healing just because we are in the business, so to speak, of helping others and guiding others along their energetic path. It doesn't mean that we aren't still working on ourselves. And I feel like when people get to a point where they're like, "Yep, I did everything. I'm totally great for the next 40 years of my life. I don't have to work on anything." Uh, I would be a little nervous about them because there's always something I feel like that we can work on. And it doesn't always have to be absolutely terrible, but some of it is, like you said, going through the birth canal. Some of it is really having moments. I talk a lot about having community and having people around you, or people at least that you can call in the spiritual community, that also are like, hey, I get it. Like, I was there too. Like, we're right here with you. You're not doing this alone. And the reminder that we have so many beings, we have so many past loved ones, we have so many angels, we have so much extra support that we can call in. So that's been super helpful for me. But yes, it's not always a beautiful walking on clouds experience.
Yes. And I love what you say about the continuing to work on ourselves, because there is always there's more healing that we can do. There's more that we can uncover about ourselves. But even if we look at it as just expansion, and
Absolutely.
this human brain is is limited. We are limited by the function of being in a human body, in a human configuration. There's only so much input that we can take in. And science has proven and talks a lot about how we only see a tiny, tiny little bit of the visible spectrum with our human eyes. And there are all kinds of wavelengths that we can't perceive with our physical eyes, we can't hear with our physical ears. You have a dog whistle and you may be able to hear a tiny little something with a dog whistle, or nothing at all. It might sound like nothing. And you see animals responding to it because their ears are configured in a different way. So there's just an example of how our senses are limited. But this universe is always expanding, and the universe is unfathomably vast and full of information, full of insights that would take many, many, many lifetimes to be able to understand and explore. And so we have by design just this limited perspective. So anybody who thinks, okay, I reached the pinnacle, it's like, that's delusion. There is always more. There's
There
always
is.
more
Yes.
to explore. There's
Yes.
always more to be revealed. I write about in my book, Your Authentic Awakening, that it's kind of a hard, it was a hard, vulnerable chapter for me to write, but it's also sort of funny and relatable in terms of a cult experience that I had. And it didn't last for a super long time. But when the few months that I was in it, I was getting, deeper and deeper into the community. And, the leaders within this organization, they flat out said that they were liberated. They were liberated beings, and they were only here for, their to help other people. They were done. They
Wow.
and I remember thinking, like, huh, could that be true? The whole time that I was in there, I was like, one foot in, but also like, okay, if that's true, that's really exciting. That there
Yes.
is,
A million percent.
right, that there are embodied beings who are liberated, truly, truly liberated. But also, that's a very big claim. And that is something a cult leader would say, you know. So there was always this dichotomy of like, oh man, that could be really exciting. But I constantly felt like I was toggling back and forth within my mind. It's really hard on the psyche to do that, to be
Yeah,
like,
sure.
but
But the awareness, so it really heightens our sense. You can see exactly how someone could get pulled into that, right?
oh yes.
By having that experience. I mean, going back to community, obviously that's not necessarily community I'm promoting, but
Yeah.
you know, when someone that has not had community gets the feeling that they truly do and that they have people standing behind them, that's a hard thing not to just fall into completely. So I can see how, those kinds of things could happen. And prior, like before I started on my spiritual journey, so to speak, I really did have the thought process that, okay, if I do this, this, and this, like I'm gonna get to this point and everything's gonna be great. And like I'm just gonna be chill and I'm gonna be like in a hammock somewhere and like it's just gonna be amazing. And the birds are gonna sing, and I'm like, it's just, and wow. Then I started along the journey and I was like, oh crap, did I really, maybe, let's see, maybe I should just go and work at like fast food and not go
Yeah.
anywhere for the rest of my life and not talk
Can
to
I
anyone
stuff this
and just like,
toothpaste back in the tube?
yes, can I like turn around and not go this route? I mean, again, I'm super thankful that I did, but it's so interesting how we have that innate longing to be a part of community. So really checking in every time we start to feel that sense of community and really feeling like in our soul, like, is this good community? Is this really feel in alignment with me? Does this, and not feeling guilty for stepping away from someone that may not be in alignment with you. I
Mhm.
think that is a journey too. I think coming into my 40s, I think that has been a huge help for me. There's something about it that like I'm like, "Oh, no, I don't have to people please,"
Yeah.
you know?
Right.
And
There's so
yeah,
much there in terms of the community aspect and the trust. And when you're trying to find your way, if you think you've found somebody who is further along than you are, that they have these secrets to the universe that are going to make things go faster for you and reveal things to you, it requires trust. And we don't know I mean, our lives unfold moment by moment, step by step, choice
right,
by choice. Our lives are unfolding, and we are choosing our lives as we go. So anytime we find somebody that we are intrigued by and that we think may help us along our path, it's a trust fall. And all we can do is say, how do I feel in this step? So as I was engaging with this group, for example, I tuned into a webinar. Actually, they had asked to come on my podcast.
mhm,
And the first time I saw them, I just saw the media sheet and I was like, heck no. These people, this is a cult. Like it just screamed it. It was
mhm,
everywhere. But my curiosity
yeah,
got the best of me. And I was like, because I was all the red flags went up. I mean, immediately. But then I was like, how are people falling for this? Because they had a lot of followers. They had a lot of, there was all this.
right,
And I'm like, how are so
sounds
many people falling for this? So then I was like, let me listen to an interview. And I listened to an interview by a well-respected
mhm,
host, and these people knew what they were talking about. They were talking about some advanced concepts. They were talking about things I hadn't had exposure to at that point. And I was like, wow, it was humbling because here I was thinking all these naive people were falling into
right,
it. What are they saying? And
yeah,
I was like, oh, they're falling into it because these people know what they're talking about.
mhm,
And they're making some big claims as well that they can, oh, this is only what I can tell you on this webinar. But, if you take my master class or you take our, ascension, blah, 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 then we can really go faster and we can really go deeper. And I'm like, well, I want to go fast and I want to go deep.
Right.
And so I'm listening in this, the initial interview, and I am humbled. And I'm like, oh, okay, I was wrong. I do want to interview these people. This interview is not out there anymore. I've taken it down, but this was years ago now. But and so then and I want to go deeper. So I take this course, which was astronomically expensive, by the
Oh,
way.
I'm sure.
Oh
That's
yeah.
usually how it is. Yeah.
Oh yeah. And I take the course and I do learn a lot. I learn a lot of new things. And I'm starting to get a sense of the community, and everybody's blown away by them. And they're going so far. They're going so fast. They're learning
Mm,
so much, and their lives are being changed so much. And that's compelling. So then I go on a retreat and I meet people in person who are gaga for these people and have apparently had major changes. And I just keep getting more and more drawn in, because it's just, but it's every step, like I was saying initially, there's all this like, wow, this could be amazing and rare.
right.
And how lucky am I that I didn't dismiss them as fast as I wanted to, because of my biases and judgments. And and so it was through, but again, every step there were some big claims of how they're bringing in this new wave
Right.
of earth, this new earth, and they're at the forefront, and everybody who feels drawn to them, they're reincarnation of these divine beings, and all of it, and all of it, there was this balance. I maybe it was like a 60-40, and that fluctuated over time, of like, wow, this is so exciting, we're so lucky. And then there's another part. Wow, these are huge claims. And I'm really like, can I even believe this? Like, there's definitely a part of me that doesn't believe it, that thinks like this is how a cult
Mhm.
works. And this is what cult leaders say. So it was through, eventually, luckily it happened, like I said, pretty quickly, because I went on that retreat and then I started to meet people who had been with them for a while, much longer than I had. And then shortly after, within like a couple of few weeks maybe of that retreat, and I'm getting closer and closer to people within the community, people started to break away. And then stories started coming out. So I really benefited from people who had been there a lot longer, who had been burned by
Oh,
them in some really like, oh, yeah,
terrible
this,
ways.
right. Like, there's no question. This is
Right.
fraud. This is
Right.
deception. There was, and so, I'm so grateful that people were willing to share their stories, because you do get so entangled and so enmeshed. And then your ego becomes such a part of it too,
Sure.
where it's like, oh, if I'm willing to say that I've been had, what does that say about me? And what does that say about my beliefs?
Mm,
And I look foolish, and all of these kinds of things that none of us want. I would prefer not to have had to experience that type of thing, but I I feel that I've benefited a lot from that, and the empowerment that I've gained through that experience of
mm,
choosing myself and recognizing how easy it is to hand over my power, because I got to a point where I was even like interviewing to be on their team, which I knew when I was interviewing, oh, okay, I will dedicate my time and my resources and my talent to their message and to help them grow, and not myself. I will
yeah,
put my work aside, and in the that would have meant there was no book. That would have meant, I'm sure I would have had to stop the podcast.
sure.
um all of the things that I was doing would not only, like, I would not do those, but I would also be using whatever resources and talents I have to spread, to help them reach more people, which, now I know is not in the highest good. At the time, I was
Right.
like, oh my
Right.
gosh, there's no better service. So, yeah.
Yeah. Well, those situations, I think the hard part is there's always some truth
Yes,
in it. And
exactly.
I think that's, what starts to happen is people connect to that truth and they're like, well, I mean, this part is real and this part is true. And these people seem really happy and they seem really relieved and at peace, and so yeah, it's very interesting, but it speaks a lot to how people can get wrapped up in that and how you can have immense compassion for those that do get wrapped up and have a hard time getting back out.
Yeah.
Your mission to help people, reconnect with their spiritual nature, right? And why do you think that's so important in the world that we live in right now?
Yeah, especially in the West, it's easiest for me to talk about Western culture because that's what I'm a part of. Because I think in the East, it's different. In
Mhm.
Eastern culture, I mean, like
Sure.
in Asia, in India, but in in the West, there has been a deliberate, concentrated effort to separate us from our spiritual nature. We are
Yeah.
enmeshed in a world, in a society that values the material world. And when you hear me say that, listeners might be thinking, "Oh, you just mean like money." Because the material girl, right?
Right,
But I
right.
just mean like what is physical. We think that the true reality is what is physical and that what is in between, the space that's in between that is empty, and that we have these physical bodies, we have our thoughts, and that is what reality is. And that is the gross reality. That is the easy surface reality that you and I experienced before we started having this awakening. And in a certain way, that was easier because
Right.
you're
Oh,
just on the surface.
yeah.
But there are all of these subtle aspects to reality. And when I say subtle, that's exactly what it is. If you're flying at 100 miles an hour, just ripping through life, and
Mhm.
you're only focused on the material and what other people think, like you were talking about earlier, you're going to miss these subtle cues because they require us to pay
Yes.
attention and to be connected with this invisible part of ourselves, this nebulous part of ourselves, this vapory essence that is within us and around us that is us. And it's that eternal part of who we are. But did we talk about this at school if we went to like a regular mainstream school? No. Did
Absolutely
we acknowledge it? Do we talk about it in mainstream media? Do we acknowledge it in the advertisements that we have for all the things that are going to make us feel better and solve our problems? No, it's always at the gross material level. And that's how our reality has been constructed. And it's not true. It's a false reality. The truth is what we are. The most important aspect of who we are is that subtle, vapory essence. That is really who we are. That is who we were before we came into these bodies. And that's who we are after we leave these bodies. And it is eternal. We're here for just the briefest amount of time, really, in the course of eternity. This is a very, very brief stint that we have here. And with these physical bodies, these temporary physical bodies, and with these thoughts. And in a lot of ways, these thoughts aren't even ours. We're picking up on things
Can
like
you say that one more time? Say
our
that one more.
thoughts they're not our thoughts. We are tuning into the energy that's around us. We're picking up on these thoughts that are not ours. They're part of the collective. They might be other people's thoughts. They may be deliberate, directed forces that are trying to sound like us, to influence us, depending on what's happening in our lives and how vulnerable we are and where we are. There are a lot of factors that say like, okay, How attuned are our thoughts to who we really are?
Right.
So it's incredibly important. I would say it is the underlying opportunity that every being who has chosen to incarnate on this planet, every human, has this invitation, and that is the backbone of the ultimate opportunity that we have, is to rise above all of the all of the illusion that we have in order to remember who we really, really are. And that helps us to become powerful creators in our reality being um, instead of being pulled around by what's happening to us, and feeling that our life is just, this repetitive thing where we're part of the machine, but rather recognizing who we really are and being able to live in accordance with what we're here for, what our purpose is, what our joy is, what our passion is. That's really the opportunity that we have. And if we can't get connected to the subtle essence of who we are, we're going to live a life where we don't feel any purpose, and we don't feel any, that what a waste. What a
Yeah.
waste of life to not feel that we are being purposeful. So when we think about the feelings of isolation, the feelings of separation, the feelings of seclusion that are a lot of people feel imprisoned in their lives.
Hmm.
And a big part of that is that disconnect. It's actually the disconnect from who we truly are, rather than, where there may also be this disconnection with people outside of ourselves, but it really begins, truthfully, the root of it is that disconnection within us.
Absolutely. You know, I think it's so easy with society to get roped in and do work 70 hours a week and make sure, I got to make sure I work more hours. I want to make sure there's enough income. I want to have the nicest house. I want to make sure if someone comes over, they know that I have the nice house and I have the nice car and our family's perfect and blah, 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 blah. And then they hit this point where they've raised their kids and their kids have moved out, and now they have this moment where they have a little bit of extra time and they're like, what just happened? Like, who am I? Like, what kind of food do I like? What kind of, and they have this moment of realization that they haven't really been involved in their own life, that they've just been doing everything that they possibly could to stay in sync with what society is telling them to do. And they have these moments of feeling so lost. You see, how many CEOs do you see once they hit the top tier, where everything is going to be perfect, they're going to have enough money for everything, they're going to have this, they're going to have that, and they take their life
Yeah, there's never enough. There's
because
never enough
they're
money.
so disconnected.
Yeah, nobody ever hits that, like, oh, finally I reached this number in my bank account
Yes.
and now I feel like I have enough. It just doesn't work like that. No matter how much we have. And like you're saying, we see it time and time again. We see it, it's all over the place. These people that we look up to because they've reached success, whether that is financial success, there may be some fame that goes along with it. We see them and we think, oh, if I could have that, but we could have that reflection, or you could just look at where they, okay, they're there. They've got X amount in their bank account. They've got X amount
Right.
of followers and likes and whatever we value.
Mm-hmm.
And they're miserable. They're
Yes.
grumpy.
Yes.
They'll tell you themselves. I mean, I love, is it Jim Carrey? I think it was Jim Carrey who, he's got a lot of like deep stuff out
Yes.
there.
Yes.
And he's like, I wish everybody could have everything that they ever wanted to just show up in their lives so they can see that is not what they want. And
Yes.
that's the proof. Somebody who's willing to say, yeah, I could have anything I want I can print money because all he has to do is decide to star in a movie and it will be a success. And he is very straightforward that that's not it.
Yes, absolutely. It's not it. And so I love that, your mission is, to assist people in this process of reconnecting to their real, authentic self. I think
Mhm.
that's so important. Yeah, it's in today's world, I think I make a lot of references to that, but I feel like today's world has been the world in so many different instances already. You
Yeah.
think about there's so many. Sometimes we get caught up in like this is the worst time to live ever, and da 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 da. Well, we think that because that's our reality right now, but if we had a conversation with Anne Frank, I think she might beg to differ, you know.
Mhm.
Um, so on another note, you have such a beautiful toolkit. You have meditations, you do energy healing, multidimensional awareness. Do you feel like when you connect with someone one on one or you're doing a workshop, do you feel like you bring all of those tools to the table right away? Or do you feel you start with one before another? Or is it just kind of based on that individual's current situation? Does that
Yeah,
make sense?
great question. I do just it all of them are there and available,
Sure.
and it's just going with what is needed in this time. And it is a constant reading of what the situation is asking for, because I work with people across different levels of understanding and of openness. And it can be easy. I'm sure you've experienced this, where it can be easy to lose people, where you say too much too fast, or the words that you use are confusing because they just don't have exposure to it, or it might sound crazy, and you lose people. So it is a constant assessment of like, okay, can I explain things in this way? Will that resonate, or will it close them up because they don't have access to that, or they don't trust that? I remember having a healing session with a woman. It's probably been a couple of years ago now. And she was very upfront, like, I've never done a healing session. I'm kind of brand new to this. I don't really know exactly why I want to do this. And, I could tell as we were kind of doing the pre healing work, she didn't have a lot of vocabulary for things. She had a lot of curiosity, but not a lot of experience with things. And as I started doing the healing work, I was seeing sacred geometry. I was seeing galaxies. I was like, oh, she's a star seed. And I mean, it was like so clear. Oh, absolutely. This girl's a star seed. But I was like, but I'm not telling her, you know?
Right.
And
I want her
so,
to run out of here this moment.
right. So we finish, and I'm just kind of sharing with her some lighter things, because a lot of people don't even know that word, starseed,
Yes,
and
you're
some
correct.
people don't, even if they know that word, they don't want to hear that
No,
that they have ET origins.
they're
That's
not
a
quite
lot
there yet.
to
Yeah.
put on somebody who has no
It
frame of
feels
reference.
scary at
Yeah,
first. Yeah, for sure.
yeah. But as we were sharing, she was talking about these shapes that she was seeing. And she was an artist as well, but which I don't think I knew at that time. But she was like, yeah, I was seeing these shapes and these geometries, or I can't remember how she put it. But there were these, she said enough keywords in describing what she experienced on her side that I was like, okay, I had no intention of telling you this, but
Yeah.
I'll add in that I was seeing these were some elements that I didn't know if I should share with you, but you've opened the door. So I was seeing some of this stuff. I get the strong sense that you're a star seed. And she was like, well, what does that mean? And so I explained that to her. And, I was like, just text, as I'm leaving, I'm like, this might be a lot that you've heard today. So text me if you have any questions. And it really opened up a lot for her. And, now she's much more like she kind of just dove right in. It resonated so much. She was like, "Oh my God, the dreams that I've had since I was
Oh,
little."
I love it.
And it really helped her to connect some things that started to float to the surface that she had felt her whole life. Um, so that's one example of like, just kind of reading on the surface as we're getting started, like, okay, I need to keep it at this level so that she's comfortable. But then, the reality was just sort of shifting around us as we were having the interaction. And it was like, oh, okay, well, we can go to this layer. We can have this kind of conversation, which was a beautiful surprise. So,
That.
yeah. So it's
Love
just kind of tuning into that subtle energy and reading it um and trusting.
Yeah, trusting, that's a big one. That was one I had to be reminded multiple times that I seem to have an issue with. It's been a constant overcoming of learning to trust. And uh, it's incredible how, I think on the outside, the surface level, you're like, well, of course, I would trust it if it was a thought I got. Why wouldn't I just trust it? Right. Or if it came to me. But that has so many different layers that go back so many different places too. So I think what I find the longer I do this work is I have people, that will randomly come up, and I'm sure you have plenty of this too, and kind of be like, they start whispering like, okay, I kind of want to ask you about something, you know, and the very first thing I'll say is, you're not crazy, just
Yes,
to be
right.
clear,
Yeah.
because I struggled with that so bad when everything started. Well, my background is nursing too. So as it like escalated, I'm like, great, I'm going to be like admitted to a psych ward. They're going to have to like do everything possible on my head and brain. And I've totally lost it. I mean, like some of the tidbits of psychiatric diagnoses are the things I'm experiencing right now. Oh my gosh, I've lost
Yes.
it,
Yeah.
which also in turn made me think, huh, I wonder if every person that has ended up in a
In the
psych ward
psych ward.
really needed to be there,
Right.
you know?
Yeah.
So that was a whole nother can of worms. But yeah, it's been very interesting. But I think one of my biggest messages to people is you're not crazy.
Yeah.
Not crazy. And if you are, I am too. So
Right.
we can totally have this conversation.
Yeah. Yeah, I remember the first kind of multidimensional experience I had. And when I say that, it's the time between wakefulness and sleep, but I definitely was not asleep yet. But I was having all of these visions and insights. And it was a very it went on for hours and hours and hours, but it was very deep. And I was moving through all these dimensions and layers and getting all these different insights. And my husband's just sleeping right next to me. And I remember thinking, like, it dawned on me, I should wake him and tell him what I'm seeing and sensing. And then I was like, oh my God, I don't know that he'd have a choice but to take me to a psych ward. There's
Right?
fine because there's no frame of reference. Um,
Hmm. It's
it sounded crazy. And
yeah,
so a lot of what you're saying, where I'm like also realizing like people who are having these visions, they may very well need help but it might actually be
sure.
more spiritual help because they're
Right.
tapping into something that they don't have a frame of reference for. It is real, but they're kind of being overtaken by a lot. I mean, I think in a lot of cases, they're being overtaken by something dark that is real, but they don't have anybody who can like meet them there and validate what they're experiencing and they can get pulled under. But it's a very real experience.
Absolutely. And disclaimer, obviously, always follow up with your medical professional
Of course.
any situation like that. Um, but yeah, I want to make sure we touch on your book too. I feel like I could talk to you for like 8 days, to be honest. But
Yeah.
your book, The Authentic Awakening. So it's described as a roadmap and for everyday spiritual living. What kind of inspired you to write it? And for somebody that's feeling overwhelmed in their life and wants to connect more, maybe if there's one practical step that
that you could suggest?
Yes. So I was feeling that I wanted to write something for a while, and just in terms of getting my story out there, but the learnings, like the things that I've navigated, but what tools have really been beneficial, because there is some low-hanging fruit that is accessible to everybody that can really help along the way to connect deeper with our soul and to live from that place. And also just understanding the construction of this reality that we're living in and how it's not supporting us. And so identifying that, understanding how that's happening, and then what we can do to counter that, and to, okay, well, these are the facts, this is the reality that we're in, the construction that's here that we're a part of. So what do we do about that? And without having to, step out of society. The whole point is, like,
Yeah.
I have a husband, I have two teenagers, I'm still part of a community in a regular mainstream. I live in
I
Indiana.
still have to do regular stuff. Yeah.
Right. I'm not living in a monastery or an ashram and have like reflections of everything that I believe around me all the time. I
Right.
do have some very dear souls that I connect with, and we can be real about, like, okay, we understand things in a different way outside the norm, but most of the time I'm interacting with people who do not see reality the same way I do. And so it's like, let's still honor and not feel that we have to give up our lives and our families and the things that, that can be really traumatic on all sides, to run off and be like, okay, well, this doesn't fit the reality anymore that I understand, so I'm out of here. And it's like,
Mm-hmm.
okay, well, do you know about karma? Like, that's not great from a karmic perspective. You can't outrun this. You've designed this, and so how do you honor all of it? um but the way that I actually said, I'm going to do this now. Have you heard of the Mitchell Hedges crystal skull?
No, that's a
Okay,
lot of
so
words all in one.
yeah. Well, I had this opportunity to have a session with Mitchell Hedges crystal skull. And the crystal skulls, there are like 12 or 13 crystal skulls all over the world. There are these ancient artifacts. There's a lot of mystery around them, where they came. This one was apparently found in like a Mayan ruin temple.
Wow.
But uh, there there are sources that say that it's inaccurate. The origin story is inaccurate, is what some people are like, no, this came from Sotheby's in London, like in a London or Christie's
Mm-hmm.
auction or something. Um, but anyway, so I can't confirm for sure the origin. But anyway, for a different reason, I just so happened to be where this worldwide renowned artifact was.
Wow.
And I was able to have this private session with it. And I mean, I was there for a different reason. Just so happened that it was there. It was all very like synchronistic and mysterious.
Surprise, surprise.
And yeah, right. And when I'm having this session with it, I just kept seeing this open book. And I was like, that. So that was like
Oh.
that was the main thing that I was getting, feeling that in your crown.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. Wow. Again,
And
goosebumps. Yep.
yeah, so that really for me was like, okay, it's time to really start to put these words down. And it still took me like 3 years from that point to
Sure.
get things to where I was ready for it to be released. Um, and then the second part of your question was like something actionable.
Mm-hmm.
And for me, it would really just be, even if you're not going to have like a proper meditation practice, some way to give yourself 5 minutes
Mm.
in a day, and to prioritize 5 minutes in a day just to be, just even if you're just breathing and you're starting with counting your breaths, you're sitting down, you're counting your breaths, and maybe, for 3 minutes, maybe you're even just letting your mind wander, but you're catching if worries come up, or if a to-do list, or you're planning. If you're in any of that kind of like strategic, analytical, or ruminating over something, where it's just letting that fall away, noticing that that has happened, letting that fall away. And maybe it's not like a proper meditation where you're really trying to focus and be deliberate about what your attention is doing. Maybe you do let your mind in your imagination in a positive, beneficial way run and, but honoring, just letting yourself honor that you are a living embodiment of spirit in this moment and doing that every day. And again, that's not a proper meditation practice, but it is a way to just be and to experience yourself being instead of doing. And that is a beautiful way to experience yourself beyond the physical, to kind of step away for just a few minutes from this constructed illusion of reality. And I think that's a great practical first step. And to commit to doing that every day. If you can't commit to giving yourself 5 minutes every day, I would encourage you to explore that. What is it that you're giving your time to? What is it that you're prioritizing over experiencing yourself as a spirit every day? And if you're having discontentment in your life, that can be a good indicator as to the root of that. If you are like, I can't even give 5 minutes for this.
Right. I think the idea of giving yourself permission
Mm.
to do that, I think that is so beautiful. It's so beautiful, and that is a great suggestion. I think everybody should get this book. I think it's incredible. I mean, to have a roadmap, to have something to hold on to know that you can, for lack of better words, survive. Multidimensional. Because there are times that it's hard. There's times you are surrounded by a lot of people that may not see things the way that you do, and sometimes that's a struggle. But I think it also reminds you that you're not alone in this. You're not the first person that's had to try to go through all of this. There are lots of other people in this universe that are walking that same line. So I think it's great to have a roadmap for that. And I think that's an awesome practical first step for sure.
Thank you.
So you do some workshops, is that right? And some summits or things like that.
Yes. So I host online summits every few months
Okay.
and workshops every not regularly, but
Mhm.
they they're out there. And the recordings are out there. So I've had different, sacred geometry workshops and energy reset workshops, that type of thing. But the recordings are still out there. So and the content is evergreen. So if people are listening and they're like, oh, I missed that, but it speaks to you, you can go and dive into the energy of it through the recordings. And then I'm always kind of creating things on that are upcoming. But everything's on my website, karagoodwin.com. And then I've been doing my podcast since 2018, and all the episodes are out there, except for the ones that I've taken down, like the one I mentioned
Yeah,
earlier.
right.
Soulelevationpodcast.com has all of that info.
Okay. And as far as your book, they can get that on the website. Is it also available on Amazon?
Yes, absolutely. Amazon, Barnes and Noble, all of those places, but you can get it also directly on karagoodwin.com.
Awesome. Wow, Kara, thank you so much for this incredible
Thank
conversation.
you.
Thank
Thank
you
you.
for sharing your wisdom, your light, and your heart with us today. I know our listeners are walking away feeling more inspired, more connected, and more open to their authentic awakening, and knowing that they're not alone in this process, which is something we really strive to remind people of. And for those that are listening and would like to dive deeper with Kara, please be sure to check out her book, Your Authentic Awakening, A Guide to Everyday Spiritual Living, and tune into her beautiful show, the Soul Elevation Podcast, where she brings together leaders, healers, visionaries for truly transformative conversations. You could also connect with her through her workshops, her healing sessions, and her events. And as she said, they're on Evergreen, so they are recorded and you can find those there. And as always, thank you for being here, Sacred Soul Sisters. Remember that you are deeply loved, divinely supported, and so worthy of living in your light. Until next time, keep shining. Talk to you soon.
Hey everyone, I wanted to take a quick second and say thank you, thank you, thank you. I'm so grateful for you. Thank you for listening to this podcast. And I want to take a minute and ask for a quick favor. If when you're listening to an episode, if you could please just take a second, place your hand on your heart and take a deep breath in through your nose and a long exhale out of your mouth, and just set the intention to send love and light to every single person listening right now, yesterday, and in the future. I think together we just might be able to raise the vibration of this world. I'm so excited. And please follow me on Instagram at Angel Reiki Journey. Visit my website to book an appointment with me at angelreikijourney.com. And please follow this podcast, Sacred Soul Sisters. Thank you so much. And I can't wait to talk to you again soon. Have a great day.